In the United States, $500 is no longer an amount of money. It's no longer something you plan around, no longer a part of life. It has become an electricity bill, insurance, a few rushed meals grabbed just to get through the day, and then the month is over before you even have time to breathe. There was a time when $500 meant stability. Today, it barely keeps the system from collapsing a little further. Not because you live extravagantly, not because you manage money poorly, but because everything around you has been quietly getting more expensive while life itself keeps getting smaller. Many people have worked their entire lives, paid taxes, followed the rules, done everything they were told was right. And then one day they realize they are no longer living, they are merely maintaining existence. Not because they lack money, but because money no longer buys peace of mind. So the real question is not how to make more money. It is this: if $500 is not enough to live where you are right now, is the problem really you? Or is it the place itself? This video is not about travel. It is not selling a retirement dream. It does not promise a luxurious life or financial freedom. It simply talks about real, ordinary places where $500 is still enough to pay rent, enough for warm meals, enough to cover bills without anxiety every night, and most importantly, enough to breathe. Not to escape, but to pause, and perhaps to begin living a little more slowly. 5. Georgia mornings in Tbilisi unfold slowly. There is no sense of being pulled abruptly out of sleep, no pressure to start moving immediately. A cup of black coffee is poured, a piece of bread still warm from a small shop down a familiar slope. People stop to exchange a few words, not out of obligation, but because time here allows it. In Georgia, morning is not a warm-up for a busy day, but a space where the body and mind are allowed to settle before the day moves on. Georgia rarely appears in loud conversations or rankings about the best places to live. It does not promote itself with glossy images or big promises. Yet that quiet presence is exactly what draws many Americans in. Georgia offers something increasingly rare in the modern world, U.S. Citizens can stay for a full year without a visa. There is no investment requirement, no complicated paperwork, no need to explain long-term plans. You arrive, your passport is stamped, and life begins in a very natural way. For people accustomed to constantly proving income, purpose, and personal worth, this simplicity creates a real sense of relief. You are not asked to become someone else, nor rushed into quick integration. You are allowed to live at your own pace, to observe first, and decide later whether this place is right for you. The cost of living in Georgia reflects that same mindset. A small studio apartment in Tbilisi, in a quiet residential area with enough light and warmth during the colder months, typically rents for about $250 to $300 per month. Nothing elaborate, but stable and comfortable. Electricity, water, heating, and internet usually total around $40, with little fluctuation and easy predictability. Local food is a central part of daily life. Vegetables, bread, cheese, eggs, and meat, bought at neighborhood markets, cost about $120 to $150 per month, enough for regular unhurried meals without constant calculation. When everything is added together, total monthly living expenses typically fall between $450 and $500. This is not a promotional number, but a level of living many people maintain month after month without tightening their lifestyle or carrying constant financial anxiety. Tax policy in Georgia follows a relatively open approach. In many cases, foreign-sourced income is not taxed, especially for those not working locally. This allows retirees or people living on external income to avoid unnecessary paperwork and unexpected expenses. Private clinics are easy to access, affordable, and straightforward. Visiting a doctor does not feel like a major financial or emotional burden, but simply a normal part of life. Living in Georgia does require adjustment. Winters are colder than in many regions, and the Georgian language with its unique alphabet takes time to become familiar. But in exchange, the slower pace of life ensures you never feel left behind. Moving slowly is not seen as a weakness here, and quiet does not mean isolation. Georgia does not try to impress. It does not set grand expectations. It simply creates enough calm for you to stay and live. 4. Cambodia afternoons in Kampot pass almost without leaving a trace. An old ceiling fan turns slowly just enough to move the air. The river in front of the porch flows quietly, without noise, without trying to be a postcard. There is no schedule, nothing that needs to be finished on time. In Kampot, the afternoon is not something to make use of, but simply something to let pass as it is. Cambodia is not a place that immediately suggests an easy life. It is not designed to impress. Yet for many Americans worn down by a pace that constantly pushes them forward, Cambodia asks a different question. If life were less complicated, would it feel lighter? There is less to buy here and less to maintain. And because of that, living costs become predictable and easier to manage. In small towns like Kampot, or in quiet residential areas outside central Phnom Penh, a simple house or small apartment typically rents for about $200 to $250 per month. These are not homes meant for marketing images, but they are airy, cool, and private enough to feel settled. Electricity, water, and internet together usually cost around $50, especially if you live according to local habits, using fans more than air conditioning, opening windows rather than sealing yourself indoors. These expenses fluctuate little and rarely create pressure. Food is where Cambodia shows what enough really means. Local food is easy to find, fresh, and closely tied to daily routines. With about $150 per month, you can eat regular, simple meals of rice, vegetables, fish, meat, and tropical fruit. There is no need for complex choices or constant price comparisons. When everything is added up, total monthly living costs typically fall between $450 and $500 a level. Many people sustain for long periods without tightening their lifestyle or worrying as the end of the month approaches. Residency in Cambodia is notably flexible. Long-term visas are easy to extend with straightforward procedures and no need for complicated visa runs. This creates a sense of stability that has become rare elsewhere. You are not counting days nor planning exits just to re-enter. Life continues without being broken up by paperwork. Healthcare in Cambodia is adequate for everyday needs. Private clinics and hospitals handle routine care at reasonable costs. For major treatment, Bangkok or Singapore are commonly used options, and the geographic proximity makes this practical. Many residents accept this approach as a natural part of life, rather than a major inconvenience. Living in Cambodia requires adjustment. Infrastructure is uneven, services do not always run on strict schedules, and many things move more slowly than you may be used to. In return, you are not surrounded by constant, invisible pressure. There is no sense of needing to keep up with others, no quiet competition woven into daily life. Things exist at a necessary level and stop there. Cambodia does not give you much, but it takes very little away. 3. Bolivia. La Paz sits higher than most cities many people have ever lived in. The air here is thin, breathing slows, and in a very natural way, life itself becomes lighter and less dense. You cannot move as quickly as you would elsewhere. Your body simply will not allow it. And when the body is forced to slow down, the mind begins to release its habit of rushing. In La Paz, no one pushes you to move faster than you can. Bolivia is not a place that feels immediately comfortable. It does not soothe you with familiar conveniences. But for many Americans worn down by decades of being pushed forward, Bolivia offers something rare: the absence of invisible pressure. No one urges you to optimize your time. No one makes you feel like you are falling behind. Life moves at its own rhythm, and you are free to step into it. The cost of living in La Paz reflects this clearly. In ordinary residential neighborhoods, renting a small apartment typically costs between $200 and $250 per month. Homes are simple without excess, but quiet enough for rest. Food is one of Bolivia's strongest advantages. Local markets are filled with vegetables, fruits, grains, meat, and traditional foods. With about $120 per month, you can cook regular, nourishing meals without constant calculation. Eating here is not about forced frugality, but about living the way locals always have. Transportation costs are nearly negligible. Many areas are walkable, and public buses and cable cars in La Paz are inexpensive and easy to use. For many residents, transportation costs effectively drop to zero, with no fuel insurance or vehicle maintenance to worry about. Movement becomes a simple daily activity, not a financial burden. Residency in Bolivia is relatively accessible. Foreigners are typically granted a 90-day stay with extensions or longer-term arrangements available, especially for retirees with stable external income. The process is not fast, but it is straightforward. You are not pushed out nor required to constantly leave just to return again. Healthcare in Bolivia is practical and affordable. Doctor visits are inexpensive, and private hospitals in major cities like La Paz and Santa Cruz are adequate for basic and moderate care. While not marketed as high-end healthcare, the system provides enough reassurance for long-term living, particularly when paired with international insurance for larger medical needs. Life in Bolivia requires adaptation, especially to the altitude. The body needs time to adjust, and the pace of life is slower than what many people are used to. Things unfold gradually, sometimes requiring patience. But within that slowness, many discover something important: moving faster is not always better. In Bolivia, you do not run fast, but you are not being pushed either. 2. Turkey mornings by the Bosphorus do not begin with noise. A cup of hot tea sits on a small wooden table, steam rising slowly. The sea is calm, with only a few boats drifting by, as if they have nowhere urgent to be. In that moment, it is hard to tell whether you are standing in Europe or Asia. And it is just as hard to feel the financial pressure so common elsewhere. Here, the morning feels like everything has paused in the right place. Turkey is where worlds meet: East and West, old and new, tradition and modern life. But what draws many Americans to Turkey is not its history or scenery. It is a very practical question. Is it possible to live a normal life in a large, complex country without being worn down by monthly costs? For many people living outside Istanbul, the answer is yes. In second-tier cities or coastal areas away from the center, monthly rent typically falls between $250 and $300 for a simple, well-lit private apartment. There is no need to live in tourist districts or sacrifice quiet. Electricity, water, gas, and internet together usually total around $50, stable and predictable. Food is a clear strength. Vegetables, bread, yogurt, fish, meat, and traditional dishes bought at local markets help keep monthly food costs around $150. Eating in Turkey is about sustaining daily life, not displaying a lifestyle. When everything is added together, living outside Istanbul in Turkey often fits within $450 to $500 per month if you follow local rhythms. It is not a luxurious life, but it is structured, orderly, and free from constant financial calculation. Residency in Turkey offers moderate flexibility. Short-term residence permits are possible, especially for those with stable income from abroad. Extensions require preparation and attention to regulations, but the process is manageable. Many people accept residency as part of ongoing planning rather than an unexpected obstacle. Healthcare is one of Turkey's strongest advantages. The medical system is modern, doctors are well-trained, and costs are low relative to the quality of care. Many foreigners choose Turkey for routine medical care, and even major procedures because of the rare balance between price and expertise. Visiting a doctor does not feel financially stressful, but simply part of maintaining health. Life in Turkey also comes with considerations. Inflation can cause prices to change over time, and residency policies may shift with little notice. This requires long-term residents to stay flexible and informed. In return, you are not living under the constant weight of fixed monthly expenses. Turkey is where East and West meet, and money stands still. 1. Bulgaria. Early mornings in Varna do not feel like the start of a new day. They feel like a gentle continuation of the day before. The Black Sea lies still in front of you, quiet, unremarkable, making no effort to impress. A few people walk along the shore, pause to watch the waves, then move on. No one checks the time. No one seems late. Here, time does not disappear, but it does not push either. It simply exists slowly enough for you to notice that you are present within it. Bulgaria takes the #1 spot not because it excels in every category, but because it answers a difficult question: how can someone live in Europe without carrying long-term financial pressure for the rest of their life? Bulgaria is a member of the European Union, with a clear legal framework, stable infrastructure, and most importantly, living costs that remain manageable for many Americans over the long term. Visa and residency rules are not vague or uncertain. The process is structured, transparent, and does not require large investments beyond the reach of retirees or those living on foreign income. Living costs in coastal cities like Varna or Burgas reflect a clear sense of enough. Rent for a small apartment typically ranges from $250 to $300 per month. Nothing luxurious, but bright, quiet, and orderly. Electricity, water, and internet together usually cost around $40, predictable and easy to manage. Food is another strong point. Local markets are filled with fresh vegetables, seasonal fruit, bread, dairy, meat, and fish. With about $150 per month, it is possible to eat regularly and comfortably without constant restriction or stress. Healthcare in Bulgaria follows EU standards, which brings a noticeable sense of reassurance. Public and private clinics operate within a familiar European system. Medical costs are reasonable relative to the quality of care and do not create anxiety when a doctor's visit is needed. For many older residents, this sense of medical security is just as important as housing or food costs, because it shapes confidence in long-term living. Life in Bulgaria does require adjustment. The language can be difficult, and English is not always widely spoken in smaller towns. Winters can be long and cold compared to other places on this list. In return, you are not surrounded by a culture that constantly demands more consumption, more work, or more proof of worth. The pace of life is steady, with fewer shocks and fewer pressures, slow enough that you do not feel left behind. Bulgaria does not promise a big life, but it keeps life from being suffocated. $500 is not a dream. It is not a promise of freedom, and it is not a fantasy life. It is simply a number small enough to remind us of something we often forget, that the problem is not always how much you earn, but where you choose to live. In a world that constantly tells us to move faster, work harder, and carry more, sometimes the most radical decision is to slow down, to choose a place where life does not press against you every day, where time feels wider, and where money stops being the center of every thought. These places are not perfect. They do not offer big lives or loud success, What they offer is space to breathe, space to live at your own rhythm, and space to feel that your life still belongs to you. If this journey made you pause, if it made you rethink what enough really means, please like this video so this story can reach others who may need it. Subscribe to the channel to continue exploring places where life is lighter, quieter, and more human. And now I'll leave you with one final question. If you could choose to slow down, where would you stop?